You know what nobody talks about? The fact that doctors, real ones, the ones who actually keep up with the research, they don't take Ozempic themselves. Look it up. Most of them won't go near it. And it's not because they don't want to lose weight after 50. It's because they know something the rest of us are just now figuring out. There are foods, just foods, that do the same thing in your body. They trigger the same hormone. They slow down your stomach the same way. They kill cravings the same way. And nobody's making billions off them, so nobody's telling you. Big Pharma actually has a real problem with one of these in particular. Number 3 on this list. They've tried to bury the research on it twice. I'll get to that. Let's start. Number 7, chia seeds. Tiny little things, you've seen them in a smoothie bowl on Instagram and probably rolled your eyes. I get it, but hear me out for a second. After 50, your stomach empties faster than it used to. That's part of why you're hungry an hour after lunch. That's why you're snacking at 10 p.m. when you swore you wouldn't. Your body isn't broken. It's just running on a different clock now. And Ozempic works by slowing that emptying down. That's literally the main mechanism. Slow stomach, less hunger, smaller meals. Here's the thing about chia. When it hits liquid in your stomach, it absorbs about 10 to 12 times its weight in water, forms a gel. That gel sits there. Your stomach reads it as fullness, and your gut sends a signal to your brain that says we're done. Researchers at the University of Toronto ran a study where people ate chia before meals, and their blood sugar response dropped significantly compared to control. Same mechanism, Ozempic targets, different route in. And honestly, this isn't new. Aztec runners used to carry chia in little pouches across hundreds of miles. They called it the food that gave them strength when there was nothing else. One spoonful, some water, and they could go all day. They weren't thinking about weight loss. They were thinking about not dying in the desert. Turns out the same thing that kept them alive also kept their hunger in check. How you use it? 1 tablespoon in a glass of water, squeeze of lemon if you want. Let it sit for 10 minutes until it gets that gel texture. Drink it 20 minutes before your biggest meal of the day. That's lunch for most people. You'll eat less without trying. You won't be obsessing about food at 3 in the afternoon. That's the whole trick. Simple, cheap, been around for 1,000 years. But we're just getting started here. Number 6, apple cider vinegar. Now I know, the moment I say this, half of you are tuning out because you've heard it before. Influencers ruined this one. They turned it into a TikTok trend, and people forgot that doctors in Japan and Germany have been studying this stuff seriously for decades. After 50, your insulin sensitivity drops. What that means in plain words is, your body has to pump out more insulin to deal with the same piece of bread you ate at 30. More insulin means more fat storage, especially around the middle. That stubborn belly that wasn't there 10 years ago. That's not just calories, that's hormones. Apple cider vinegar contains acetic acid. Acetic acid does something kind of remarkable. It slows the breakdown of starches in your gut, which means glucose hits your bloodstream gradually instead of all at once. A study out of Arizona State University found that 2 tablespoons of vinegar before a high-carb meal lowered the post-meal blood sugar spike by around 34% in people with insulin resistance. 34%. That's not a small number. That's pharmaceutical territory. In Japan, there's a tradition that goes back hundreds of years of drinking a small cup of fermented rice vinegar before meals, not for weight, for digestion, for longevity. The villages where people regularly live past 100, a lot of them have some version of this in their daily routine. Okinawa, certain parts of mainland Japan, vinegar shows up everywhere. Way to do it. 1 tablespoon in a glass of water. Drink it 10 minutes before your meal. Don't drink it straight. You'll wreck your tooth enamel. Use a straw if you want to be extra careful. Do it once a day to start. That's enough. You'll feel fuller. Your cravings for sugar in the evening, those will start to fade after about a week. Just give it a week. People expect overnight magic and quit on day 3. This isn't that. Now this next one. This is where it gets interesting. Number 5. Beans. Yeah, beans. The thing your grandmother served you and you complained about. Black beans, kidney beans, white beans, lentils, chickpeas, all of them. Here's what nobody tells you about appetite after 50. There's a hormone called GLP-1. That's the thing Ozempic mimics. Your body makes it naturally when you eat certain foods. The drug just floods your system with a synthetic version of it. But your body, if you feed it right, can produce more of its own. The question is, what triggers it? Soluble fiber, specifically the kind that ferments slowly in your large intestine. Beans are loaded with it. When that fiber gets down there, it feeds your gut bacteria, and those bacteria release short-chain fatty acids, and those fatty acids tell your gut to release GLP-1. Same hormone, same hunger suppression, no injection. A research team in Denmark published findings showing that people who ate beans daily for just a few weeks had measurable increases in their natural GLP-1 levels. Their hunger ratings dropped. They ate fewer calories at the next meal without anyone telling them to. Their bodies just stopped asking for as much food. There's a region in Costa Rica called Nicoya, one of the so-called blue zones. People there routinely live to 100. And researchers who went in to figure out why kept finding the same thing on every dinner table. Black beans, twice a day, sometimes 3 times, with a little rice, with some squash, with whatever was around. They weren't doing it for any health reason. It was just food. But that food was quietly doing what we now pay $900 a month for. How to use it. Half a cup of cooked beans with lunch. Every day. Doesn't matter which kind. Mix them up if you want. If you've been avoiding beans because of bloating, soak them overnight before cooking and rinse them well. The bloating goes away after about 10 days as your gut adjusts. Push through that window. This is the kind of thing that sounds too simple to work, which is exactly why it works. Number 4, oats. Real oats, not the little flavored packets full of sugar. Steel cut or rolled, the ones that take more than 90 seconds to cook. After 50, you're more vulnerable to something called metabolic syndrome. Belly fat, high blood pressure, blood sugar problems all wrapped up together. And it makes everything harder. Losing weight gets harder. Sleeping gets harder. Even thinking gets harder because your blood sugar is on a roller coaster all day. Oats contain a specific kind of fiber called beta-glucan. This is the heavy hitter. Beta-glucan forms a thick gel in your gut, similar to what chia does, but it also does something else. It binds to bile acids and forces your liver to make more of them out of cholesterol, which is why oats lower cholesterol. But more importantly for what we're talking about, it slows gastric emptying significantly. We're talking hours of fullness from a single bowl. The American Heart Association recognized this back in 1997. Beta-glucan from oats was one of the first compounds the FDA allowed a health claim for. That doesn't happen often. Now look, if any of this is starting to click for you, if you're sitting there thinking, why has nobody told me this before? You know what to do. Stick around. I've got a lot more of this coming, and the next few I'm about to share are honestly the strongest ones on the list. In Scotland, for centuries, oats were the food of working people, farmers, soldiers, fishermen. They'd eat a bowl of porridge in the morning and not need to eat again until the evening. They weren't trying to lose weight. They were trying to work 14-hour days without collapsing, and oats let them do it because of how slowly that fuel released into their blood. How to make them work for you. Half a cup of dry oats, cook them with water or unsweetened milk. Add cinnamon, add berries, add a tablespoon of nut butter if you want. Eat them in the morning. You won't be hungry until 2 in the afternoon. Test it for a week. You'll see. Skip the instant packets. Those spike your blood sugar almost as fast as a candy bar. The slower the oat, the better it works. Number 3, and this is the one Big Pharma genuinely does not want you to know about. I'm not exaggerating. There have been at least 2 major attempts in the last 15 years to get this regulated as a drug instead of a food, which would have made it prescription only and 100 times more expensive. Both attempts failed. Barely. Konjac root. Comes from a plant grown in parts of Japan, China, and Southeast Asia. You might know it as the source of those rubbery noodles called shirataki. The active compound is glucomannan. Here's why this one is different. Glucomannan absorbs up to 50 times its weight in water. 50 times. Chia does 10 or 12. This does 50. It forms a viscous mass in your stomach that physically takes up space and slows digestion to a crawl. Your stomach is full. Your hunger hormone, ghrelin, drops. Your fullness hormones go up. And it does this without any calories of its own to speak of. A meta-analysis, published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, pooled data from multiple trials and concluded that glucomannan supplementation produced significant weight loss compared to placebo. Significant. That's the word researchers use when something actually works. Not modest. Significant. In Japan, konjac has been part of the diet for over 1,500 years. Buddhist monks ate it because it kept them feeling full during long fasts and meditation sessions. They called it the broom of the intestines because it cleaned everything out as it passed through. They had no idea it was doing anything for blood sugar or appetite hormones. They just knew they felt clear, light, focused. The reason this one terrifies the pharmaceutical industry is because it works through almost the exact same mechanism as the new GLP-1 drugs, but it costs about 30 cents a serving, and you can buy it in any health food store. There is no patent on a plant root that grows in volcanic soil in Asia. They cannot own it. So they would much rather you didn't know about it. How to use it. You can buy glucomannan powder or capsules. 1 gram, taken with a full 8 ounces of water, 15 to 30 minutes before a meal. Critical, you must drink the water. If you take it dry, it can actually swell in your throat, and that's dangerous. With water, it's completely safe and has been used for over 1,000 years. Start with one meal a day. Lunch is usually best. If you can find shirataki noodles in your grocery store, even better. Use them in stir fries instead of regular pasta. Almost no calories, massive fullness. Your weight starts to drop without you tracking anything. This one alone is worth the entire video. But there are two more. Number 2, Greek yogurt, the real stuff. Plain, unsweetened. Full fat is fine, don't be afraid of it. After 50, your muscle mass starts dropping at about 1% per year. That's called sarcopenia. And less muscle means slower metabolism, more fat storage, weaker bones, the whole cascade. The only way to fight it is protein and movement. And the kind of protein matters more than people realize. Greek yogurt has roughly twice the protein of regular yogurt because of how it's strained. We're talking 15 to 20 grams in a small cup. And it's loaded with leucine, the specific amino acid that triggers muscle protein synthesis in older adults. Without enough leucine, you can eat all the protein in the world, and your body won't build muscle from it. With enough leucine, even a moderate amount of protein gets used. But here's the GLP-1 connection people miss. Protein is one of the strongest natural triggers for GLP-1 release. Stronger than carbs, stronger than fat. So you eat the yogurt, your gut releases the same hormone the drug mimics, your hunger drops for hours, and you've also given your body the building blocks to hold on to muscle. It's doing two jobs at once. In Bulgaria and parts of the Caucasus, there are villages where people regularly live past 100, and they all eat fermented dairy every single day. Yogurt, kefir, cultured cheese. Researchers have been studying these populations since the early 1900s, and the fermented dairy keeps showing up as one of the constants. They're not slim because of magic. They're slim because their daily food is keeping their hormones balanced and their muscle mass intact. How to use it. 1 cup of plain Greek yogurt in the morning or as an afternoon snack. Add berries, add a few walnuts, add a drizzle of honey if you need it sweeter. Skip the flavored ones. Those have as much sugar as a candy bar. The plain stuff takes a week to get used to, and then you'll prefer it. Eat this instead of cereal. Eat this instead of a granola bar. Eat this instead of the snack you don't even remember choosing. Watch what happens. And now, number 1, cinnamon, real cinnamon. Specifically Ceylon cinnamon, not the cheap cassia stuff that's in most grocery store shakers. Cassia works too, but Ceylon is gentler and you can use more of it. I know what you're thinking. Cinnamon, the thing you sprinkle on toast, that's number 1. Yeah, that's number 1. Here's why. After 50, the single biggest driver of weight gain isn't really calories. It's blood sugar instability. Your blood sugar spikes after a meal, then crashes, and that crash makes you hungry again 2 hours later even though you just ate. That's the cycle that puts on the weight that won't come off no matter what diet you try. Cinnamon contains compounds that mimic the action of insulin in your cells, specifically a compound called methyl hydroxychalcone polymer. You don't need to remember that. What you need to remember is that it makes your cells more receptive to the insulin you're already producing, which means glucose gets pulled out of your blood faster, your spike is smaller, and your crash never happens. No crash, no hunger 2 hours later, no late afternoon raid on the kitchen. Researchers in Pakistan ran a study on people with type 2 diabetes and found that just 1 to 6 grams of cinnamon a day reduced fasting blood sugar by up to 29%. 29% from a spice. They published this in Diabetes Care, one of the most respected journals in the field, back in 2003, and then it just sat there. Most doctors never even read it because there's no drug company sending a rep to their office to talk about cinnamon. Traditional Chinese medicine has used cinnamon bark for over 2,000 years, not for blood sugar specifically, they didn't have that concept, but for what they called warming the middle, which roughly translates to digestive fire, energy, and what we'd now recognize as metabolic function. They knew it did something. They just didn't have the laboratory tools to prove it. The reason this is number 1 is simple. It's the easiest thing on this entire list to use, the cheapest, and one of the most powerful for the specific problem most people over 50 are dealing with. How to use it: half a teaspoon to a full teaspoon a day. Sprinkle it on your oats in the morning, both number 4 foods working together, by the way. Add it to your coffee. Stir it into your Greek yogurt. Mix it into a glass of warm water with a little honey before bed if you tend to wake up hungry in the night. Doesn't matter how you get it in, just get it in. Stick to Ceylon cinnamon if you're using it daily. The cassia type contains a compound called coumarin that can stress your liver in large amounts over time. Ceylon has almost none. Pay the extra $2. It's worth it. That's it. 7 foods. Not a single one of them requires a prescription, an injection, or a pharmaceutical company. Most of them have been on this planet longer than any drug we've ever invented. People were using them to stay healthy and lean centuries before anyone thought to charge $1,000 a month for a synthetic version of what your own body can make for free. The doctors who actually understand this, they're not telling their patients because they have 15 minutes per appointment and a system that pays them to write prescriptions, not to teach. But you know now. So do something with it. Take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one.